So far, so good. A very, very nice weather morning here in downtown Cincinnati. And we welcome you to Great American Ballpark. Sun shining right now. Reds and the Brewers wrapping up this 4-game series, and the Reds trying to make it back-to-back wins. And a happy Easter Sunday to each and every one of you alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day. I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio. Easter Sunday will forever be remembered in the Romano family as Sal makes his major league debut here today.
Well, there are a whole bunch of them here in the stands this afternoon. Jim Day will get to that later on. But Romano himself, Sal Romano, that is, the starting pitcher for the Reds today, making his major league debut. I mean, and battling all the typical butterflies that youngsters do. I got to tell you, however, Tom, this young man has a lot of stage presence. He is really a battler, and he's a guy that I don't think is going to be worried about being on the big stage for very long. He's going to be more worried about what he did down in Louisville, which was dominate, and really what he did in big league spring training with the Reds was make a very strong case that he ought to be on the opening day roster.
One day better try to slow down is Eric Thames. What an impressive series he has had his first year here with the Brewers.
You know, who would have ever thought that coming out of the Korean League where he played and was dominant there that he would be able to do the same thing at the big league level. But one thing I can tell you about Thames is I think that every home run that he has hit has been a fastball. At least 3 out of the 4 have. He puts really good swings on fastballs from lefties or righties. So maybe today Romano and company will figure out something, a different way to go after their hottest hitter.
You know, we thought maybe 2-3 years ago Willie Peralta was going to be among the best young pitchers in all of baseball moving forward in his career. Hadn't worked out that way, although off to a good start this year.
Well, he has had some injuries that have derailed him the last couple of years, but he still is a big guy, a hard thrower. They say he's using his fastball more now than ever before. So they feel that the 1-2 punch of Jimmy Nelson and Peralta will give them a couple of power pitchers at the top of the rotation. We'll see if Willie can throw the ball over the plate enough today to be able to throttle the Reds.
Well, you throw Zach Cozart strikes right now. It's adding up to a 10-game hitting streak. He is on fire. Cozart during the 10-game streak, you see, leads the National League with nearly a .490 batting average, and he is in the lineup again today. Coming up, a weekend of first here at the ballpark. I mean, a lot of them. Jim Day, the main man, standing by with that. You're watching Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
Hey guys, meteorologist Brandon Orr here from Local 12. Yesterday was perfect. It was warm. We were into the low 80s, but we didn't have nasty humidity around. Humidity is a little bit higher today, but temperatures are a little bit cooler, only around 75 degrees by the final out. We do have a chance for rain. Some of these showers could be heavy at times, which means we have a possibility of some rain delays as some of these showers and thunderstorms roll on through. Enjoy the game here on Fox Sports Ohio.
A very cool scene moments ago as Sal Romano set to make his major league debut, and they're lined up at the bullpen to greet him onto the field. Romano Nation is here. There's Mom, along with 40-plus family members and friends, some of them decked out in T-shirts that say Romano Nation, and Sal acknowledged the crowd up there, and the biggest cheers so far are coming from Romano Nation. I'm Jim Day, and I'll be visiting that group coming up here in a bit, as Romano is the 6th player already on this young season to make his major league debut with the Reds. A couple of days ago, Jesse Winker made his major league debut, and yesterday, a day he'll never forget. It's part of our IGS Bringing the Energy. First career RBI yesterday as a 2 RBI double. Last Reds player to have his first big league hit go for extra bases and drive in the eventual winning run. Pitcher Brett Tomko way back in June of 1997. And another first, Michael Lorenzen. He mowed through the heart of the Brewers' order. Tying run was at the plate. That was Ryan Braun, but he got him out. His first career major league save. Will there be a first today? On Sundays, always the youngsters waiting for the starters to come out. On this Easter Sunday, it's the Brewers and the Reds next on Fox Sports Ohio.
Great American Ballpark in downtown Cincinnati on this Easter Sunday 2017. We hope you and yours have had a wonderful start to this day and this entire weekend. And a day certainly to remember for 23-year-old Sal Romano. Entered the season rated by Baseball America as the 8th best prospect in the Reds organization. He looked higher than that, Chris, watching him in Arizona.
He did. It looked like he came to Goodyear, Arizona with a mission, and that mission was to try to make the opening day roster, which he nearly did. In fact, if you argued based on what he did only in Arizona, you say he would be included in that 25-man roster at the beginning of the year. But what I liked about Romano most was the fact that when he throws and misses, he's not missing up in the zone. He's missing down around the knees, and he brought a whole bunch of support with him here this afternoon.
Well, you're not lying. Parts of Connecticut, New York represented among other places to watch this young man, and he throws a left leg into the air. Fastball, strike one, and they'll throw that one back into the dugout and make sure it ends up in Romano's locker after the ball game today. We're underway, and welcome to the major leagues. A very, very small crowd on hand on this Easter Sunday, as we thought there would be. That fastball at 98 miles per hour at the knee, strike two.
I like that location all day long.
Nick Franklin getting his first start of the series, had a big hit off the bench in their win 2 nights ago. That's good morning, good afternoon. It should have been good night. Looked like he went around there. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Franklin. Will be followed by Thames and then Braun here in Milwaukee's opening inning. Brewers exactly at 500, 6 up, 6 down. Won the first 2 games of this series before the Reds rallied 7-5 victors yesterday. Well, he's trying to throw it right now through a double wall.
Well, you know, he's got such adrenaline going. He's a big, strong kid anyway. Obviously, his fastball has been rated the #1 fastball in the Reds minor league organization. And that is, he's backing it up here by throwing it 98 here in the first inning.
Well, look at him huffing and puffing there already out there on the mound. Took that last big inhale and deep breath. Got to remind yourself of that, don't you?
Well, you know, it's very hard to keep your emotions in check, but I've always said that if, as a major leaguer making your major league debut, as a pitcher, if you can just get by the first hitter and then get by the first inning, everything kind of revolts, you know, goes right back to just regular old baseball at that point.
Mother Lynn watching from the stands. I mean, she's been watching since he's been throwing fastballs as a little guy. Look at her jump out of that seat. She wants that first punch out. Three balls, 2 strikes. Struck him out with a gas at 97. Holy Moses. Look at that contingent indeed. That's fun stuff right there. They are fired up, man.
Good old Connecticut country hardball right here.
Southington, Connecticut High School, and then the Reds drafted him the 23rd round in June 2011. Signed by Lee Saris, a scout there. And now he faces Eric Thames, who's had a big time series coming off the first game of his major league career, where he had more than 1 home run in a game. He had 2 of them yesterday, 2 solo shots. And the first Brewer in franchise history, in his first 10 games with their franchise, to hit 5 home runs. Pretty impressive.
Well, the guy's built like a home run hitter, but he has shown himself to have a nice short swing, good path through the ball, and obviously plenty of power.
He has a home run in each of the last 3 games, and during his current 8-game hitting streak, 12 hits in 29 at bats. So not just home runs, he's swinging the bat well, period, with that short swing. And he's drawing a 1-out walk. Tell you, very, very early on, and you wonder, Chris, is this the kind of thing that Craig Counsell, you know, meets with his team about, especially when you're facing a guy for the first time? How many times in the past have we seen a guy you know as nervous as can be, and the opposition does him a favor by going through like a 10-pitch first inning? I mean, these first 2 Brewers batters have worked 12 pitches through the first 2 hitters. Franklin was very patient at the plate. And the same now for Thames, and here's Ryan Braun, who generally is not really patient at the plate. First pitch swinging just like he did yesterday. And you'll, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding.
Boy, he had plenty of time to get under it. That's Arizmendi Alcantara playing second base right there, and he'd like to have that one again. Right now, we've only seen a couple of different types of pitches from Romano. He is known mainly for his fastball. His slider, and you've seen it there at 88 miles an hour, is a wicked one. He's got a changeup that is a project and something that's getting better, hopefully, each month. You know, the problem with throwing a changeup when your heart is beating 1,000 pumps a minute is that you just can't really figure it out. So right now, I think in the first inning, Barnhart, for the most part anyway, has gone with all of his power pitches, power slider and power fastball.
Oh, 2 on Ryan Braun, runner at first. Just underway here on this Easter Sunday, and that pitch in the dirt. So now, after the drop pop-up, you're forced to throw at least 4 more pitches to retire the batter that should have been retired 4 pitches ago.
You know, when Romano was throwing that slider at his best in spring training, he was starting it at the plate and then letting it dive down out of the zone. And he figured it out about halfway through the spring, what his release point needed to be. Right now, maybe just a little bit too amped up. But when he throws that ball that appears to be a strike and darts out to be a ball, that's a put-him-away pitch, and he's got a good one.
Thames at first, 1-2 on Braun. We'll do it again. Brewers starting lineup under Craig Counsell, presented by Menards. Shaw back in the lineup at third. Perez moves into right. Pena back behind the plate. Kirk Neuenhuis in center. Arcia the shortstop, and Willie Peralta on the mound. Craig Counsell in his 3rd season as manager of the Brewers, his 2nd full season since replacing Ron Renicky a couple of years ago. That's in the dirt. So now all of a sudden another extended at bat. After Romano thought he had, and so did everybody else that cheers for the Reds, a 2nd out in this opening inning.
Yeah, you know, I don't think it's really something that's on his mind or Brian Price's mind, the pitch count. More on your mind there is trying to get out of the first inning. Doesn't matter whether it takes 13 pitches or 53 pitches. You just kind of want to get through it with no damage.
Well, you got to believe the runner will get started here on a 3-2 count, although he has a very short lead at first base. And Romano to the plate. Runner does go. Ball 4. Holy mackerel. Well, you know who's playing second base already today. Duvall is back in the lineup out in left field. Schebler again coming off a big day in right. So here's Travis Shaw, 9 hits in 42 at bats, has a home run and 7 runs batted in. He started the first 2 games of the series, was on base twice on Friday night after going 0 for 4 here on Thursday. Young man who grew up in Washington Courthouse, Ohio. We saw his dad, talked to him, Jeff, for a while today. His brother, who when he walks in a room, he looks like he's about 8 feet tall, his brother Griffin. And of course, mom Julie also here today as well. 1 ball, 1 strike. Shaw's 27 years old. He went to college, we told you earlier, playing at Kent State University. Grew up in Washington Courthouse, Ohio. Boston drafted him in the 9th round in 2011. They made it to the big leagues 4 years later.
Just looks like Sal is just trying a little too hard with every pitch right now. You know, it's one thing to have one of the best fastballs in the organization, but it's another thing to believe that your fastball is good enough to get big leaguers out. Believe in it.
In the air left field. This is playable for Duvall, and he's got it for the 2nd out of the inning.
What I mean by believing in it is that once you believe in it, you're going to relax a little bit. You're going to have better feel having the ball come off your fingertips, and when you do that, you're going to have action on it. And that's one thing that Romano has been known for throughout the years in the minor league organization for the Reds, is keeping the ball down, getting a lot of ground balls, and mainly keeping the ball in the ballpark. He's a very difficult guy, traditionally and in the minor leagues, to hit the ball out of the park on.
Hernan Perez had 3 hits the first start of the series yesterday. He had a 2-run double in the first inning that flew over Billy Hamilton's head, had a single to center in the 3rd, and then clubbed a solo home run off Raisel Iglesias in the 6th inning. So a 3-hit game yesterday after collecting only 3 hits his first 26 at-bats to start the year. Two balls and a strike. Brian Price and Mac Jenkins well aware this inning should be long over for this young man making his major league debut, were it not for a dropped routine pop-up in foul ground, the 3rd batter of the game. And now the Romanos hoping that Sal can get through this opening inning. 1 more strike and out to go.
Just about an unhittable spot right here.
Two on, 2 out, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Romano bringing it. We'll do it again. Oh, Chris made a great point a moment ago about Romano certainly not out there thinking about his pitch count. You can take it to the bank that Brian Price and Mac Jenkins are thinking about the pitch count. Obviously, first and foremost, they want this young man to get through this first inning, a scoreless inning. But man, oh man, the number of pitches that have occurred in this inning because of a sure out that should have been. 2-2. And the inning continues on.
You know, the one
to
thing
30 pitches now in his first inning.
The one thing you're going to note when you get to the major leagues, that a lot of those pitches that are strikeouts in the minors in AA and in AAA, they're foul balls here. And this is what Perez has been able to do. It was what Braun was able to do before he ended up working a walk. And you couple that with the fact that Romano's not an especially high strikeout pitcher, not even in the minor leagues, despite his overpowering fastball. But if he gets that slider where he wants it, it's a swing and miss pitch.
Once more, the 2-2. And now the count full.
You know, you get up on top of the pitch and you got 2-2 count, and you're telling yourself, all right, I am going to bury this slider, and there's no way he's going to make contact with it. and you put everything in it that you have, but you start too early. And that's when you hold on to it and it goes right down into the dirt. Need a strikeout of him right here.
Crowd really getting behind this young man. Just trying to get the final out of this inning. Runners get started. And another foul ball.
Well, you see that Perez is reaching for everything that is even off the plate. I think those last two pitches could have even been called balls had he let them go. But Romano's not throwing the ball inside really to anybody, at least on purpose today, on the inner part of the plate. Everything has been kind of down and away, and big league hitters start looking in one zone, and it's awfully tough to fool them if you throw it in that zone and they're looking there.
Again, a 3-2 coming on Perez. And the foul balls just keep on coming. Fastball after fastball now that he's gotten a 3-2. And while Perez not putting it in play, he is putting the bat on the ball. This will be the 35th pitch of this opening inning. And it looks like he may survive. Let's just make sure it's caught. That's Billy Hamilton. That's money in the bank. Scoreless opening inning in the major league debut of her little boy, Sal Romano. Reds are coming up. Fox Sports Ohio brought to you by Chevy. Check out their award-winning lineup only at your tri-state Chevy dealer, and by Skyline Chili. Feeling good. It's Skyline time. Reds lineup presented by Menards under manager Brian Price, already sprinting up there to the batter's box. The leadoff man Billy Hamilton, Alcantara batting second, and Votto in the 3-hole. Duvall, Suarez, Scheffler in the middle, Cozart, Barnhart, Romano against Willie Peralta.
Willie now 27 years old. It seems like he would be older than that. We've seen him around with the Milwaukee Brewers for a long, long time. And really what you're going to see in Peralta is a lot like at least the Brewers hope, what you saw in Jimmy Nelson the other night. Big, strong arm right-hander, throws the ball into mid to high 90s. Attack more with fastballs than just about anything else. But it's his inability to be able to throw the breaking ball to left-handers and get lefties out that has really held him back.
Been a very quiet series for Billy Hamilton. The very first at bat of the series, he had a single, stole a base, wound up scoring a run in the Reds' first inning. He has not been on base since.
You know, the same thing I really believe would apply to Willie Peralta that applies to Sal Romano from the Reds batting strategy standpoint. You know, you really ought to make this guy go out and throw strikes. He averages too many walks per game. He always has, even in the minor leagues. So make him establish his ability to throw the ball over the plate before you make easy outs.
Billy does that right there in a full count here, leading off the opening inning. Not sure exactly where that got him, but he's clearly walking around in some pain. Wearing those white spikes on this Easter Sunday. Oh, on a shin.
Shinburger.
Oh, boy. That hurts.
He wore special spikes yesterday to commemorate the 70th anniversary of Jackie Robinson. And he's got some new white cleats going today.
He draws a walk, so he must have heard you up here, Mr. Welsh. Make this guy throw some strikes. Hamilton a perfect 5 for 5 in stolen base attempts so far this season. In fact, neither him nor Peraza have been thrown out in 10 base stealing attempts this year. And you see, he likes running right now, first pitch of the at-bat. But we'll see. Yeah, Pena back there has a very, very good arm. And it's ball one on Arismendi Alcantara.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how many breaking pitches we're seeing Peralta throw here in the first inning. I always thought as a starting pitcher that you want to work through the first 9 batters in the order with as few pitches as possible. That is different types of pitches. If you can throw just your fastball to everybody for the first 3 innings and get them out, the second time through the order, then you can start changing things up with pitches that they have not yet seen. But Peralta's thrown every one of his from his pitching repertoire here to the first batter.
Peralta's first start of the year came against Colorado. 5 innings, 3 hits, no runs, threw the ball very well, got a win in that one. He won his second game up in Toronto. That was when the Brewers, right before they came here, swept the Jays. 2 games at Skydome, 6 innings, 3 runs, punched out 7, although he did walk 4 in that game after just 1 walk in his season opener. Peralta 7 up and 11 down, an ERA just short of 5 last year. He did not pitch well at all. Opponents hit well over 300 against him. And remember, he was their opening day starter and wound up in the minor leagues in June. Billy not running. Alcantara taking 1 ball, 1 strike. Now, when they brought him back, it was a whole different ballgame.
Well, you're right, and they're hoping that he will build on that. But still, so far in the season this year, his control really hasn't been where they've hoped. Alcantara taken all the way, trying to give Billy an extra pitch to go on.
There he goes. Pitch taken. It's up high, and the throw is in time to get him. Billy did not get a good jump. First time he's been thrown out all year long. And we had heard that Pena throws very well, and this time they gave him a chance.
Well, the throw was high, but it looked like it was almost a modified pitch out, a breaking pitch actually, but it was outside and high, an easy spot for the catcher to catch and release.
And you saw Billy, even when Peralta started to bring it home, actually leaned 1 step back towards the first base bag before exploding towards second. He never looked quite sure of Peralta's move that entire sequence of pitches.
Peralta threw over a couple of times and actually shortened up his lead a little bit, it looked like.
3-1 on Alcantara. And he takes a walk. I'll tell you, we have seen more of this through the first 10 days of the season than I can ever remember any season in the 30 years I've been blessed enough to be announcing Major League Baseball games. And that is the number of walks that are being issued by starting pitchers. I mean, we saw the game in Pittsburgh the other night. Glasnow walked 6. Finnegan walked 5. Saw yesterday Finnegan walked 3 in the first inning. He was injured, had to leave the game. And there's a base hit by Joey. Alcantara should get to third. He's making the turn and will easily get there. And here come the Redlegs in the opening inning.
Votto looking for a fastball, looking for a strike, figuring Peralta didn't want to fall behind in the count, and the pitch down around the knees, but Votto puts a smart bat of the fat part of the bat on it. What a nice, just controlled swing right there. Boy, it'd be awfully nice to kind of answer the long inning that Sal Romano had in the top of the first with a run or two here in the bottom of the first, plus give him some time to get his breath.
On the last road trip, the hottest and most powerful hitter in the Reds lineup was this man, Adam Duvall. But the Brewers really came after him in each of the first 2 games of this series before he got yesterday off. He was 0 for 4 on Thursday. They struck him out 3 times. 0 for 4 on Friday night. And an earned day off yesterday for the Reds cleanup batter. But now a fresh start on this Easter Sunday, and he has runners on the corners with 1 out in the opening inning.
Tom, I'm thinking about your comment about how many walks you've seen early in the season out of starters. And the only thing that I can think of is that there has never been a time in baseball before where the velocity of a pitcher is more important than anything else. We have seen so many ball clubs just fall in love with the radar gun and the metrics of how hard it is to hit a 96-mile-an-hour fastball with really no regard as to where it's thrown. And that's why you're seeing it. You're seeing power arms, highly rated prospects who are signed to bounce through the minor leagues because they simply overpower inferior hitters. And finally get up here where the strike zones are a little bit more conservative based on hitters understanding the zone. And now you're looking at walks.
It's very interesting. Two and two on Duvall. And a ground ball down to third. That's a nice play, and they turn it over. And they turn the double play to win the inning. It doesn't get much better than that. What a play by Shaw and a turn by Franklin. Reds miss a chance. No score, end of 1. storyline brought to you by Elk and Elk. Reds making their major league debuts already this season. Today, Sal Romano becomes a third. Rookie Davis, third game of the year against Philadelphia. Amir Garrett, the following night in St. Louis, was spectacular. And Romano threw the ball very well here in the first inning today. Rookie right now on the 10-day disabled list. Amir Garrett will get the ball on Wednesday night against Baltimore. Reds have an off day tomorrow. Bronson Arroyo will come back and pitch Tuesday night. Garrett Wednesday, and then Scott Feldman comes back Thursday. The Reds will have to decide what they're going to do over the weekend with their starting rotation. Brandon Finnegan goes on the 10-day disabled list. For the time being, they bring up Tim Adelman from the minor leagues to work out of the bullpen. So, you know, Luke, you look at, for the second time, perhaps a chance for either Cody Reed, Chris, or Robert Stevenson to fill that vacated spot of Brandon Finnegan.
I think eventually they're both going to get a start. Finnegan will evidently miss more than one start. Even though he's only on the 10-day disabled list, they say they're going to shut him down for a couple of weeks. And I think that's been the Reds' plan all along. I mean, they've got a number of young pitchers, all with great arms, all with great potential and high ceilings, and they want to be able to figure out a way to get them into the starting rotation. Right now, it's been Amir Garrett that has just dominated in his 2 starts.
Manny Pena swung the bat extraordinarily well the first couple of games of this series. He got yesterday off.
Hey, what he likes
4 in the opener, and then he chalked up 4 hits here on Friday night.
Yeah, he likes to hit it down the right field line.
Riantu on Manny Pena, and ripped into left field, a base hit. Man, is this guy swinging the bat. And we brought up the other night, Chris, you look back at his minor league numbers, and he's been in the minor leagues for a long time. You know, and his numbers don't bear out that he would swing the bat like we've seen him.
You're right, and it's almost a Eric Thames type of a story, where Thames goes to Korea, maybe the equivalent of a high minor league level over there, gets a lot of at-bats, figures it out, and now Manny Pena, a little bit later than other guys, are maybe figuring out the hitting too. Or it could be the fact that he's just seeing the ball big right now, and hits are falling in for him. But if you hit it where he just did, it'll fall in all the time.
And now hit with a pitch is Kirk Neuenhuis.
You know, kind of interesting, Tom. When we watched Sal Romano in spring training, I mean, he dominated. He went out there and he wasn't afraid. He went right after the hitters. But remember that in spring training, you don't go over the scouting reports ahead of the game. You just go out and play the game. You're not glorifying the other team's hitters by saying, hey, this guy's a really good first ball, fastball hitter. This guy can hit a 2-strike slider if you're not careful. Sometimes when you get into the major league regular season and you pour over all these detailed scouting reports, it tends to make the hitters actually seem better than they really are. Instead of letting Romano go out there and just let Barnhart call him, okay? You tell him, these guys are nothing. Let's follow what Barnhart says, use your good stuff, and have some fun.
I think it's a great point you make, and I think that everybody from a personality standpoint in that regard, Chris, is probably a little bit different. There are some pitchers, it's probably a really good thing. Maybe there are some other guys where exactly what you're saying. You know what? Forget that pitchers meeting and going over the hitters today. We're going to let the catcher call the game and let him worry about it. It's a great point.
I'll never forget that I was on a ball club with San Diego with John the Count Montefusco, who was quite a character. I think he was from New Jersey or Connecticut, by the way, like Romano. And we were in a meeting, and we're against the Dodgers. And Steve Sachs, the first guy, and they go, oh, first pitch fastball hitter, Count, how you going to pitch him? I'm going to blow him away. Okay, who's next? You know, Russell, I'm going to blow him away. Dusty Baker next, I'm going to blow him away. So we never got through the scouting report.
Straight away center field, hit a long way. Billy Hamilton drifting back will have room. And just now the runner is unable to get back and tag up. Now, here's a question I want to ask you about. I mean, Billy went a long way to get that ball. This is one inside of Major League Baseball clubhouses. This is one of the most debated base running topics that you'll find day out and day out, as far as guys agreeing with one way to do it or another way. The one way you just saw, you go halfway so that if the ball drops, you can score, right?
Correct.
Whereas those in the other camp would say, if you go back to second base, if the ball drops, you're still going to score, more than likely. There's a bunt by the pitcher. It really is an interesting topic about how, you know, you look at a play like that and you say, how's a guy at second base not standing at third from having tagged up?
Well, I think it can be more complicated than just that. I think, first of all, the runner is always taught that if you feel that the outfielder is going to make the catch, you know, you go halfway.
Right.
And then, or you go back. If you have a question as to whether it could fall in, then you go halfway because you want to score. But where you are in the lineup always has something to do with it, too. So we just had the pitcher bunt the guy over. You're not going to take a chance just to advance to third base and have the number 9 hitter come up. So a lot of times is where you are in the order that can complicate that. But I agree with you. It's highly debated, and I don't think there's a right answer.
It really is interesting. I mean, because most of the time you'll find pretty much common agreement on a lot of different little things about baseball. But that is one of them you see a lot where you'll get a difference of opinion from people who have watched and been around baseball a long time. All right, 2 on, 2 out. 0-1 to Nick Franklin, who had a long at bat his first time up before he ended up striking out.
But, you know, in defense of the one argument where you should go back and tag up, that runner at second base is in the best position of probably anybody in the ballpark to determine whether the outfielder will make the catch or not. And if you know anything about Billy Hamilton, if it stays in the park, there's a really good chance he's going to catch it. So maybe in that case, it would be worth having a runner at third base, tagging up instead of going halfway. Well, this is the guy that you want if you're Sal Romano. You certainly don't want to have to come to Eric Thames with the bases loaded, not the way he's seeing the ball right now. Franklin hit a triple the other night, but he's a fill-in player. So this is the guy you go right after.
2 balls and a strike. Pena the runner at third, Neuenhuis the runner at second base. 2-1 pitch. Pop up, and this is going to do it. Boy, you just shoot him up there at 95 to end the inning. When we come back, Jim Day hanging out with the Romano clan. You'll want to stick around for that.
Romano Nation, and we're going nationwide. Jim Day with you with the Romano family. I have Mom Lynn to my left. I have sister Marissa over here to the right and brother Vincent down here. And they just told me 47 friends and family here in the crowd. Mom, we've got to talk to you first. When you see Sal stroll out onto a major league field, what were the thoughts going through your mind?
It was just incredible. Could not be happier for him, and he's worked so hard to get to this point. This has been his dream, and he did it.
Well, no one has had a longer road of getting here than you, because it has been every day of his life for you. Do you think back to the car rides, the practices, him being sick, mending him, buying equipment, everything involved?
Everything. And this whole group here is his support system. His aunts and uncles, his cousins, his friends, everybody traveled here. And they've supported him since day one, since Little League, not just when he got drafted by the Reds.
Marissa, sis, what are your emotions?
It's just unreal. We're very proud of him. Love seeing him up there. Very excited, proud of him.
Well, Vincent over here, I noticed that, I mean, right away I could tell you were his brother because you look very much like Sal.
Sometimes I get that, sometimes I don't. Personally, I don't think so, but apparently, I guess everybody does.
Maybe it's the size. Two big guys. All right, tell me about all the people here. We've got people from Connecticut and New York, and I had 45 on my sheet, and you guys corrected me. Oh, no, 2 more came. There's 47. So describe the amount, not only the amount, but is friends, family?
I'm saying it's his friends and his family. Like I said, they've all supported him since Little League, not just since he made the major leagues. It's all, like I said, his aunts, his uncles, his grandmother is here, all his cousins, his close friends that he grew up with, his coach that he had in high school is here, but he's his friend now. It's not just that he's his coach. So everybody came from Florida. My brother came from California.
Wow.
Everybody wanted to be here to share in this special day with him and show him how important he is to us and show us our support for him.
Well, that's awesome. 47 now here, and 47 happens to be his number. Now, who came up with these shirts? Romano Nation.
My niece Elizabeth made these, had ordered them for us, and we all bought them. And yeah, he didn't know about this until this morning. He came in and had breakfast with us. He says, "Wow, nice shirts, Mom."
And if you can't see on here, it says Romano Nation and also hashtag FOE, and that's
family over everything.
Well, nothing can beat that, particularly on an Easter Sunday. So thank you guys so much. I got to tell you, and I know people probably think that I'm just saying this as eyewash, but getting to know Sal during spring training, Mom, you did a terrific job. He is an outstanding young man.
Thank you very much. Thank you. He is a great kid. We're very, very lucky.
Well, it is like Tom and Chris, much like a football atmosphere in this section, because Romano Nation going crazy up here, and I'm going to hang out for a little bit.
I tell you, I don't blame you. I mean, you can just tell the love and the support inside that family. Just listening to Mama talk, she is something, isn't she?
Well, you can tell that, Tom, and you can also tell when you get to know Sal Romano a little bit. I had the pleasure of being with him for 3 or 4 days on the Reds Caravan this winter, and just an exemplary young man. Really is in every facet. He's the kind of kid that looks you right in the eye when he talks to you.
Well, this will be one of those games, doesn't matter what happens, the outcome is at strike 3, where Sal and his family will get a copy of this game on TV, and Sal see his family and friends, everybody being interviewed, and now it's his job to get people out.
during spring training. I got to go to the house of Sal Romano, Cody Reed, Robert Stevenson, and Amir Garrett, all competing for the same spots, but deciding to be roommates for 2 straight years, and they dreamed of this day right here.
I think that's the ultimate goal here, especially 2017, that this is 100% possible to happen. I think we can all hopefully enjoy that together at some point where all 4 of us are, regardless of what we're doing. Like, it would be cool to enjoy the moment with these 3 guys, for me especially. You know, hopefully this year when I do get my chance that I can enjoy it with my friends. It would be cool.
And it has come to fruition. All 4 guys on the same major league team. They are the best of friends. Don't have to be roommates, have chosen to be roommates and the best of friends. And guys up here in Romano Nation, not only you heard all the states that are represented, also have a family here from Dayton that opened the doors when Romano was with the Dayton Dragons for 2 seasons, opened their house, and Sal lived with them. They are here to cheer him on as well.
Great stuff, Jim Day. Thank you very much. What has not been great is the defensive work of Alcantara in this game today. He dropped a pop-up and foul ground, gliding over to try and catch a ball in the first inning. And this is a routine ground ball to begin the 3rd.
He never really did set his feet ahead of time. He kind of was shuffling at the same time he fielded it. And if you get a bad hop at that point, it's going to be hard to stay with. Got away from him and never did get a chance to throw the runner out on the rebound.
You know, and rightly or wrongly, it's one of those situations where for a fellow like Alcantara, I mean, let's face it, I think a lot of people raise their eyebrows. I'm the first to tell you I did. When we got to the ballpark today, not surprised Peraza is getting a day off. He's been scuffling a little bit for the first time this year here the last couple of games. But one guy that is not scuffling is Scooter Gennett. And Gennett is a second baseman by trade. That's in the air to right center field. Schebler back at the wall, and that's a home run. And it's a 2-run home run rather than a solo shot.
Now, one of the lessons to be learned as a young pitcher pitching in this ballpark against the killer of the Reds like Ryan Braun is that no part of the ballpark is out of reach. Especially when you leave it high in the zone right there. The hitter, you know, really good hitters don't pull the high pitch. They just go with it. And Braun has been a Reds killer.
Has he ever? For Ryan Braun, his 22nd career home run here at Great American Ballpark. That is 1 short of the all-time leader as a visiting player, and that would be Lance Berkman. All those great years with the Houston Astros, came in here and hit 23. Braun now at 22.
Oh, boy.
Alcantara had not committed an error in almost 2 years during his playing time in the major leagues, and here he has 2 of them. The first 2 balls that have been hit at him in this game. And now this one is launched by Sean to right, and it's 3-0 Milwaukee.
Well, both the pitches hit for home runs in this inning have been fastballs. We showed you the one off the bat of Braun, high and away. He went with it. This one down and in the wheelhouse of Travis Shaw. And not even down and in. I mean, that ball is above the knees, which is just about perfect hitting spot.
Ryan Braun now 945 runs batted in as a Milwaukee Brewer. Not that that number is of any great significance in and of itself, but it does make him the second all-time leading run producer in the franchise's history. I mean, he's in the top 3, 4, 5 in everything, and will be #1 in everything before his career is over. 3rd in runs, 2nd in RBIs, 3rd in total bases, 5th in hits. He needs one more extra base hit to become #2 there with Paul Mullen.
Well, it happens awful lot after a home run, but when you give up back-to-back home runs, you know, you begin to nibble around a little bit. So he walks the next batter, Hernan Perez, on 4 pitches. And it's very difficult at this point, but the only choice now for Romano is to kind of revert back to what got him here in the first place. Throw strikes, keep the ball down, and let the fielders do their jobs behind them. Now, granted, they've had a couple of errors behind them right now, but still that does not explain the hit by pitches or the bases on balls.
Three walks in the game for Romano. He's also hit a batter, and he's allowed 3 runs on 3 hits, all 3 runs in this inning on the home runs from Braun and Shaw.
You know, the Reds picked up Sal Romano in 2011. He was a high school player in the state of Connecticut. In fact, he pitched his team right to the very finals in that Connecticut double-L final game. And it was a game that had really historic attention by media outlets all over the country. It ended up going extra innings. It was a game that was delayed twice by rain. And when they finally got back to play, Sal Romano came up as a left-handed hitter, and he hit a double down the left field line in a play that looked like it was going to win the game. But the runner at first base came around and missed home plate. Well, no one knew that. And there was a huge celebration. Romano's team, they're celebrating. Meanwhile, the other team got the ball. They appealed it home. The runner was called out, and now they had to stop the celebration, take the field again. The game goes extra innings, and ultimately the other team wins. In that ball game, Sal Romano threw 145 pitches. Now, you think that's a lot? Not really all that many compared to his opponent, Cole Bryant. Cole Bryant in that game threw 176 pitches and ended up striking out a batter for the final out of the game with the bases loaded. As it turns out, Romano gets drafted by the Reds that spring in June, and Cole Bryant goes to Southern Connecticut State, where he is now pitching. He's 5-0 as a senior. So you're thinking, well, Romano's in the major leagues, and this other kid's a senior in college. So had Romano gone to college, and he nearly did go to college, by the way. In fact, the Reds signed him after he had already was on the campus at University of Tennessee as a 22nd round draft pick or 23rd round draft pick. And
well,
they followed him around. They followed him around, and they finally offered him enough money he wanted to sign, and that's when it became it. Here are the other notable players that the Reds got from that 2011 draft who are on the roster now. Robert Stevenson, 1st round. Cingrani, 3rd round. And Amir Garrett, 1 round ahead of Sal Romano. Pretty good draft.
Really good. Boy, Romano's all over the place now. After the home runs, he's walked consecutive batters. Still nobody out.
Well, if they're back-to-back walks, you're looking for something on the very first pitch here if you're Kirk Neuenhuis. I guess not.
Tim Adelman, who was just brought up from the minor leagues, he's been a starter down in Louisville, and of course we saw him have pretty decent success as a Red starter last year. He is starting to get loose in the bullpen. Looked like Romano may have lost his footing a little bit there, and another pitch out of the strike zone. Romano's thrown 38 balls and 33 strikes of his 71 pitches.
Yeah, you think back to yesterday's ball game, and Brian Price surprised a lot of people by bringing Raisel Iglesias in the 5th inning yesterday, and you know, maybe if you're thinking along with Brian Price, you got your major league debut of Sal Romano coming on Sunday. Not really sure what you're going to get out of a major league debut. That's why perhaps he went after that game yesterday so hard and so early.
Struck him out, and that's the first out here in the Milwaukee third. Second strikeout of the afternoon for Romano.
Yeah, the first strikeout since he struck out the leadoff hitter on a 3-2 fastball. This time he gets him on a slider, it looks like.
Orlando Arcia now the batter. He flied out to Billy Hamilton in the second inning. This inning began with Braun reaching, or Thames rather, reaching on an error by Alcantara. Braun then hit the ball the other way for a home run. Shaw followed that up with a solo home run. Walk, strikeout. And it's ball one to the shortstop Arcia. Brewers have hit now 21 home runs in 12 games and 3 innings. Only the New York Mets have hit more home runs than this Milwaukee team in all of Major League Baseball. They've homered now in 8 straight games, and during the 8 games they've hit 16 home runs. The Mets have 1 more as of right now. Chris, you talked about it at length yesterday, that the heart of the batting order juggled a little bit today with Perez in there, but when you have Santana, and we know Perez is capable of hitting a home run, he hit one yesterday. They've got a lot of sluggers in the middle of this lineup. They'll have to hurry. They get one, and safe was a call. Votto dropped the ball, but the runner beat it anyway. So the pitcher will bat with 2 out.
Romano gets a ground ball when he needs one right here. Just is too big of a high hop right there. Reds do a nice job. It's a good turn by Alcantara, but not in time, as you said. But now with the pitcher up, it does give Romano a chance to get out of this inning really with minimal damage. I mean, he's been flirting some damage in each of every 3 innings he's been out there. They've scored 3 times right here, but if you shut it down here, not all that bad.
The out of Peralta, who's 1 of 2. He gave himself up with a sacrifice his first time up. He's swinging the bat here, obviously, with 2 outs. And a good block there by Tucker Barnhart on a pitch in the dirt, ball 1.
Yeah, and you really got to come after this guy. I mean, Peralta's not a great hitter.
There goes a runner first to second. They'll let him take it. And now Romano really needs to zero in. He's fallen behind Peralta, 2 balls and no strikes.
And where he's missing is kind of an unusual place, Tom. He's not flying open. He's just holding on to the ball, maybe a little bit too careful, trying to nibble away at that outside corner.
Three and 0. Stolen base number 1 of the season for Arcia. He was thrown out here trying to steal, you may remember, the other night. 3 and 0 on the pitcher. And he might be taking again 3 and 1.
Better believe it.
Although, you know what? I'm not a gambler. I'm not so sure I'd take the bet he's taking. Even after just saying it I don't know if I believe it. He took it. 3-2. All right, let's see if Sal can get this one in the strike zone and end this third inning. Popped up. Votto will handle this one. And that will be the third out. A 3-run Milwaukee third, and they lead 3-0.
Baseball break brought to you by T-Mobile. Sebastian Elizalde in Preston spring training and has done nothing to unimpress at AAA. Look at his average, 462 home run, 2+ hits in 7 of 9 games. Left-handed hitter. Could see him this season. Former first-round pick Phillip Ervin, last 4 games, 400 average. And we told you during spring training, file away the name Jimmy Herget. He's a reliever. Got a little extra hitch in his giddy-up of a delivery, a fun pitcher to watch. And at AA Pensacola, 4 saves and 4 opportunities, 11 strikeouts in 5 innings pitched. And during spring, Brian Price said this is a guy that could fly through the system. You may see him here this year, too. Sal Romano appears to be done. And one of his best friends, Amir Garrett, giving him a big hug. Amir's been there, although Amir had a more successful outing. The first one is always the toughest. He'll put it behind him and now move on. Appears he's done for the day.
All right, Jim Day, thank you very much. If indeed that is the case, he gives up 3 runs, 2 of which are earned runs in his 3 innings of work in this his major league debut. Romano has walked 4 batters, hit a batter, struck out 2, and allowed only 3 base hits. Tucker will lead things off here in the Reds' 3rd inning. And he's thrown out by Nick Franklin. Reds had a big-time threat in the 1st inning. Billy Hamilton walked, but he was thrown out stealing for the first time all year. Alcantara walked. He would go to 3rd on a single by Votto. 1st and 3rd, 1 out. And really the best defensive play and the most important defensive play turned in this game came on a hot smash off the bat of the next batter, Duvall, to the glove side of Shaw, who was able to knock it down from his knees through a strike to second, starting a double play. And now Michael Lorenzen will indeed make it official. Day is over for Sal Romano as Lorenzen pinch hits here in the 3rd.
Yeah, I know that Willie Peralta's getting more and more experience every year. He's been around for several years now, but I tell you, that delivery of his really doesn't excite me. It seems like he falls off to first base and just leaves his arm behind so often. And that's one of the reasons why he has always averaged more than 3 walks per ball game, or 3 walks every 9 innings. Just seems like he would be much better if he would just kind of get in line a little bit. I mean, he'll go this way. Probably, well, that was actually a pretty good one, but more often than he will actually go towards home plate and his target.
To Hopper, to Arcia, 2 away.
Actually, the last couple of pitches for Peralta have been pretty good. I imagine it's something that they've been working on with him. And every pitcher's the same way. I mean, he's only 27 years old. When he stays in line, I mean, the whole idea is to go right at your target instead of kind of moving off in this direction here. If you get that front side, especially above your waist, falling off towards first base, pitching coaches call that leaving your arm behind. There's a big separation between the space where your head is, your right ear, and your arm. And a lot of bad things happen at that point.
Well, for whatever reason, the Reds have, caught Peralta on a lot of good days for him during his career. In 14 starts against the Reds, his ERA is almost exactly at 3. And especially here at Great American Ballpark, always been known as a hitter-friendly park. Peralta's ERA in 37 2/3 innings coming into the game today was barely over 2.6. Those are good numbers in this ballpark. They're good numbers in any ballpark. I think Billy may have fouled the ball off nearly the same place he fouled it off of back in his at-bat in the first inning. Let's go back to the one in the first inning and then take a look at the one here.
This was the Schinberger early on that, ouch, there is nothing you can do about that. And then last time, it looks like he hits it, gets on his other leg. Got to protect those wheels.
Especially him. Popped up. Second baseman will go out and make the catch, and that will end the inning. Reds retired for his second straight inning in order. We're off to the 4th. 3-0. Brewers in front. Lottery postgame concert series kicks off with Kaleo Friday, May the 5th. $25 and you get a Reds game ticket and you get on the field to see Kaleo perform the big hits like Way down we go, all the pretty girls and so many, many more. Don't miss Kaleo Live right here at the old ballpark. Purchase your tickets at Reds.com/Kaleo, K-A-L-E-O. That'll be after I believe that is a Friday night game against the Giants. Tim Adelman will come on to pitch for the Reds in relief of Sal Romano. Now, Adelman did not pitch particularly well, Chris, in the spring, battling for one of those spots in the rotation. He did throw the ball well for the Reds when given the chance between injuries last year.
Oh, you're right. And I think that's the reason that they kept him on the roster and the reason he's up there right now. He really fits the mold of an ideal long man out of the bullpen. He's been around a little bit. He's 30 years old. You don't have to worry about too many innings on his arm and blowing out the arm of a young prospect by going to him often. But at the same time, he wants to establish himself as a big league pitcher. So this outing very important for him from a personal standpoint. I mean, that is despite what the Reds happen to do after this game or this week with him or any other roster moves.
The first time that Adelman in a very short amount of major league games has pitched out of the bullpen. He was used exclusively as a starter last year.
It's a real feel-good story if you know the story of Tim Adelman and how he was, he graduated from Georgetown. He's from New York. He is Staten Island. He graduated from Georgetown and the Orioles signed him. Worked his way through the minor league system and then was eventually released by the Orioles and still had the dream of playing big league baseball. So he signed on and played independent ball. In fact, he tried out for the Florence Freedom and was cut. So they sent him off to one of the other independent league teams that needed pitchers at that time. I say he was cut. It could be that their roster was already full. But nonetheless, he spent a couple of different years bouncing around independent ball. That's a professional team that has no affiliation with any big league team. And it's really and usually the end of the line for most of those youngsters that have that dream of playing in the big leagues. But he got picked up. The Reds scouted him there. They sent him into high A from there. That was Bakersfield. And a couple of years later, here he is in the major leagues.
And we mentioned were it not for some injury setbacks last year, who knows what his year would have looked like. He made 9 straight starts starting on August the 16th, while finishing the season in the Reds starting rotation. But from May to the early part of August, he basically missed 2.5 months with a strained left oblique. He's just taken care of Thames for the second out of the inning.
And that's a rarity.
Good action on that fastball.
He's got a little bit of an unusual motion in his pitching delivery that I think sets the hitters off their timing a little bit. It's where he kind of hesitates with his hands just a little bit extra before he delivers it to the plate. We'll get a shot of it. You can see it best from the side view from third base, but we'll get a shot of it and show you there how. And he really didn't develop that as a means to offset the timing of the hitter. It's more something that he needed in his delivery.
Pretty good pitches right there to start this at bat to Ryan Braun.
Here's a motion we're talking about. If you just watch his hands right here, that just little hesitation right there has had an effect on the hitters. It didn't mean it when he began to develop that. He was told by a pitching coach, all right, you don't want to have a late arm. You need to get your hands going pretty quickly. So he gets them out of the glove, and in the process gets that arm swing going a little bit better in timing with the rest of his body.
Chris, you brought up something earlier which I found so fascinating. And when Adelman takes a mound after a 1, 2, 3, 4th, when he takes the ball in the 5th, I want to ask you about this. Because if you just go by minor league success numbers, this guy should have been in the big leagues a long time ago with the Reds.
broadcast is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
All right, let's see if the Reds can get something going here on this Easter Sunday. They're down 3-0. They bat last to the 4th inning against Wandy Peralta, or maybe Willie Peralta. We've gotten used to Wandy Peralta around here. But this is Willie, no relation. Alcantara lifts a fly ball in the short left field, and Braun right there using 2 hands to catch a pop-up. And that's the first out in the inning. If a Red hits a home run off that Toyota sign today, off the power stacks out there, Corey West from Goshen, Ohio, will win this beautiful new Tundra on display at Great American Ballpark. If you'd like to register and have a chance to win it, stop by your Cincinnati and/or Northern Kentucky Toyota dealer. One of these days it's going to happen. It hasn't happened yet. One day it's going to happen. Somebody's going to win that Tundra. It's a long way from home. Votto has a Thunder to get it there.
Yes, he does.
Well, took a high hop. Thames didn't even know he had the ball. He looked down on the ground momentarily. Turned his head away. Can't blame him for that. Something came off. What, his sunglasses came off? Yeah.
He turned his head so fast that the glasses came off the bill of his cap. This ball took a wicked hop. And he wasn't sure with the glasses on the ground, were those the glasses or were those the baseball? Meanwhile, Willie was over there to cover. So Votto up twice, has hit the ball hard twice.
Yeah. Base hit his first time up, and now a hard out. Peralta getting on a pretty good run here since he got that huge double play off the man who bats now, Duvall. 9 in a row retired by Willie Peralta.
And I got to tell you, his delivery looks so much better now than it did in the first inning. You know, he could have just gotten into the habit of overthrowing in the first. You know, you feel all pumped up. Maybe it was one of those days down in the bullpen where he, you know, didn't have it and he thought he needed to put extra effort into it in the first inning. But he's nice and smooth and going to the plate now. Kind of the same formula that the Brewers' Jimmy Nelson used the other day. It looked like the Reds, if they were going to have a chance against Nelson, it was earlier in the game rather than later, because once he started rolling along, it was tough.
Boy, was he impressive here on Thursday night indeed. Nelson went 7 innings, did not walk a single batter, allowed 5 hits in a run, and that 5-1 Milwaukee win over Bronson Arroyo. 2 balls and a strike on Duvall. 3-1. Suarez next. Get back in this thing right quick. If Duvall can reach and Suarez run into one. They're already in the 5th inning in Miami. Marlins a 1-0 lead over the Mets. Nationals in the 3rd, 3-1 better than Philadelphia, and just underway. Pirates going for the 3-game weekend series sweep at Wrigley Field in Chicago after the Reds swept the Pirates in overwhelming fashion, outscoring Pittsburgh 22-5 in a 3-game series. Pirates scored 5 runs in the 7th inning yesterday against the Chicago bullpen to win 8-7.
And didn't the Pirates sweep another team right before the Reds?
Atlanta.
They swept Atlanta. They were swept by the Reds, and now they're on the verge of perhaps sweeping the Chicago
Well,
Cubs.
let's go back. Every series they played, even the first one, they lost 2 games to the Boston Red Sox. Remember, the other one was rained out. So in every series, I believe that's right. Suarez, well, we said a walk and run into one, and he runs into one.
Second deck.
How about that on this Easter Sunday? Ask and ye shall receive. Duvall walks, Suarez runs into one, and it's a 1-run ball game. Just like that.
Just one of those cement mixer sliders. Rolling right up there with not a lot of action.
Suarez now in the year with 3 home runs and 10 runs batted in. Same number as Scooter Gennett has in limited playing time. And by the way, that is correct. The Pirates lost the first 2 games of the year in Boston, had 1 game rained out. They came home, they swept the Braves. They stayed at home, got swept by the Reds. They went to Boston for the makeup game, lost a game. So that's a sweep in that series. And now they're trying to sweep Chicago. No middle ground.
So if you're wondering where Jim Day's broom is, good chance it's in Pittsburgh.
Real good chance. A 2-out walk gives Suarez a chance, and he makes it a 1-run game. Stanley Cup playoffs in Columbus, Ohio tonight. Blue Jackets hosting the Penguins in Game 3 of the first round. It's 2-0 in that series with Pittsburgh in front. Hour-long Blue Jackets live. Gets coverage started at 5. The puck drops at 6. Right here on Fox Sports Ohio, streaming live on Fox Sports Go. You know, speaking of the OHIO, of course, that's made famous up in Columbus, Ohio, for the Ohio State University football team in particular. And I'm sure many of you yesterday had a chance to see the highlights of their spring game. Incredible crowd again. But that was not the story at the end of the day. It was certainly one of the most moving scenes that you will ever see. A young man who's been very close to the football program, who suffers from muscular dystrophy, 17-year-old high school student named Jacob Jarvis. He scored the final touchdown in that spring game yesterday in his wheelchair. And if you get a chance to go look it up, please do. It is just a wonderful, wonderful moment on such a holy weekend in that young man's life. Been very close to a lot of the players. They've gotten to know him really, really well. And he took the handoff from J.T. Barrett. Scored the game-winning touchdown yesterday at the Horseshoe in Columbus.
That's good stuff.
Oh, it was great. Saw the same thing a couple of years ago at the University of Nebraska. Young man who stricken with cancer. In fact, the excellent running back that just left the Bengals was signed as a free agent by the New England Patriots. Rex Burkhead, he was the one that made that whole thing happen at Nebraska while he was playing there. Travis Shaw leads things off 3-2. It's all of a sudden a one-run game here in the 5th inning. Brewers in front. Adelman in relief of Sal Romano. Throws him a strike. And that's a routine fly ball into left field. 1 out. But that's what I wanted to get to you, Chris. When Adelman retired the side in order in the 4th, and I said, we'll save that until the 5th. Now, look, this isn't a situation where we're questioning the decision makers at any level in the Reds organization, or you're questioning a guy like Robert Stevenson, because I'm going to use him as the example. Stevenson has had what you would probably say is one dominant year in his career in the minor leagues against the competition he's playing against. And of course, he was signed as a high school kid, so he's been younger than a lot of guys coming up through the minor leagues that he's playing against. Adelman, on the other hand, is a guy that was not a high round draft pick. You mentioned 24th round by Baltimore, got released. Reds picked him up, minor league deal in October of 2013. But the last 3 years, the Reds have not had what you would call a good pitching. Nowhere close to good pitching. And yet Adelman had seasons in the minor leagues where the ERA was 2.8. ERA was 2.6, 150 innings. Last year was on a good roll, starting the season at Louisville. Raul retired 5 in a row here in this game. But he's older, doesn't throw as hard, and perhaps is bypassed in favor of other younger, hard-throwing people.
Well, if you're rebuilding, you're not looking for older and doesn't throw as hard. And that may be an unfortunate thing because you overlook guys like Tim Adelman. And I think probably not just in the Reds camp, but throughout minor league camps around Americans at the end of spring training, there are dozens of pitchers that are released because they're just a little bit short. And they never really get a shot, a prolonged shot, to show that command is their strength and they can get big league hitters out. But that's just the way it's designed.
Well, he's getting his chance today. 6 up, 6 down. Reds are trailing by a run.
This half inning, look at his average: first in the National League, first in on base percentage, second in slugging percentage, and a 10-game hit streak. And it's back-to-back seasons now. Players with 10+ game hit streaks to start back-to-back seasons since 1930. I'm there with some pretty good names, including some guy named Lou Gehrig.
There's a fly ball into left field by Cozart on the first pitch from Peralta here in the 5th. Reds are down 3-2.
Well, Cozart really attacks that pitch that's up and in, doesn't he? I mean, a lot of pitchers want to pitch you in, especially hard throwers like Willie Peralta, thinking you can't get around on my fastball. But, you know, continually over the years, Cozart has shown himself to be one of the better and faster bats on that pitch up and in.
So now Tucker Barnhart with 1 out. Milwaukee got 3 runs, got a couple of home runs, back-to-back home runs in the 3rd inning. Ryan Braun with a man aboard, followed up by Travis Shaw. And then the Reds were able to get on the board, a 2-out walk to Adam Duvall in the 4th, home run by Eugenio Suarez. Adelman will bat next. Reds have used a lot of bullpen the early part of this 2017 season. I mean, they got 1 inning from their starter before he was injured yesterday. 5 innings from Feldman on Friday night. Arroyo did manage 6 innings on Thursday night. And Tucker laces one to center field, a 1-out single.
What a sweet swing. I mean, I'm trying to do too much. You know, when Tucker makes a swing like this, I'm thinking to myself, if he could just copy that swing, you know, a couple of 100 times a year. I mean, because he's got great hand-eye coordination. Sometimes you fall into the trap of swinging too hard.
Bunted by Adelman, and a throw to second, and Tucker quit running. I don't know if he assumed he was going to be safe down there, but he just stopped running and never went sliding into the bag.
And Counsell's going to get greedy right here. He's going to ask his video guy to take a look at the play at first base. That perhaps that he was safe at first, and he is safe at first base.
I think Brian Price wants to know if
Price wants to check the
second base. We invite you to follow Reds Baseball Live with the MLB.com at Bat mobile app. You can stay connected to the best players all season long. Download MLB.com at Bat today. It's your #1 app for live baseball. So they're going to take a look just now, getting over to put the headphones on. Give you a look at second base.
Out. You know what? I think his foot was on the bag.
I tell you, that's going to be close. It's not a matter of whether the ball beat Barnhart. The point Chris is making is, does his foot make contact with the bag when he actually catches the ball in his glove?
Kind of an odd play, really, because on one hand, Counsell was asking his video guy for a look at the first base play. Meanwhile, Price was asking his video guy, Bo Thompson, for a look at the play at second base. So conceivably, you know, the video crew back in New York would be looking at both plays at the same time, although the one at first base we've seen is definitely safe for Adelman. The other thing about it to remember is that there was a slight rule interpretation change this year. And it used to be when the ball is caught, the definition is when it hits the back of the webbing. This year they're interpreting it as soon as it hits any part of the glove, the same way it would be interpreted on a sacrifice fly situation. But I don't think that's the play in question right here. Whether it's in the glove or not is not a question. It's whether his foot is on the bag when the ball is in the glove. Out at second. Safe at first. 2 minutes of your life you'll never get back. That's not a good moment for Tucker Barnhart right there, because he realized he just got caught with his pants down. One of the few times today that Peralta has not thrown a first pitch strike. 14 for 19.
Short lead over there by Adelman, and Billy swings and fouls it off out of play. Hamilton 0 for 1, drew a walk in the first inning. Got a ground ball, and this will go to first. Scooped out of the dirt by Thames, and that will end the inning. We've played 5. Brewers in front, 3-2. Ohio brought to you by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together, and by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. Start your weekend off with a bang. Fireworks Friday in the ballpark. Friday, April 21st. That's this coming Friday. The Cubbies in town. You can come down here for only $12. We'll have the post-game fireworks show presented by PNC Bank. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Always send out a special hello, and perhaps even more so on this Easter Sunday, to those watching over at Cincinnati Children's. Hope you're having a good day today and a better day tomorrow. Tim Adelman has been terrific out of the Reds bullpen. He's really calmed things down here. He's faced 6 batters, retired each of the 6. Allowed his team to go from 3-0 down to the current 3-2 score. Still a long way to go as the Brewers bat latter third coming up here in the top of the 6th inning. Ball 1 on Kirk Neuenhuis. Arcia to follow, and then Peralta. Although a few bodies beginning to not necessarily start to get loose, but start getting loose physically out in that bullpen. Some guys starting to stretch out a little bit. Peralta, by and large, has been in pretty thorough command of this game. You know, the one thing that got away from him, and Chris Welsh talks about it all the time, especially you see it in young pitchers, you wouldn't expect a guy like Peralta, although young in age, he has a lot of experience, to retire the first 2 batters, 2 good hitters like he did with Alcantara and Votto in the 4th, and then you issue the 2-out walk. And rarely do good things happen with leadoff walks, and it seems like just as frequently 2-out walks, because the next batter, Suarez, launched one in the 2nd deck. Got him swinging. That's 7 in a row now retired by Adelman. 4 of them via the strikeout.
I'm not even sure what that last pitch was. If it was a sinker, it had some major drop on it. That's a changeup. You can see it's kind of a modified changeup or a circle change grip, and the bottom just totally goes out of that pitch, and he sells it like a fastball. That's a great pitch against left-handers.
Now RCO for 2. He's got a lot of bailing going on, doesn't he? And that stride, that left foot of his.
And all that tells you as a pitcher or the catcher calling the signs is, you know, don't leave one on the inner part of the plate.
They appeal again, this time no. 1 ball, 1 strike. So if that's the case, Chris, why would you ever pitch him inside?
Well, you can pitch him off the plate because he wouldn't be able to keep it fair. But you don't want to leave it inner third. The old saying is don't throw it where he just left. And it seems like Barnhart wants it in there, but Adelman's really not all that crazy about throwing it in there. And RC really has one power slot, and that's the left field.
It'll back up Schebler a couple of steps. Now to his right. 8 in a row set down by Adelman. Take a look at the number of innings each of the pitchers in the Reds bullpen has thrown since the Brewers got to town. Aston back in the minor leagues. Cingrani only because he only retired 2/3. Iglesias getting the win yesterday. Lorenz in a couple of innings, got his first career save yesterday. The only guy the 9 faced at reach against Adelman is the pitcher Peralta on a 2-out single. Go figure. But you go back to that list for a minute. I mean, look at all the guys and all the innings. So they had to bring Adelman up here in case they got a short outing from Romano in his major league debut.
Well, if you look at the bullpen overall and compare its usage to other National League teams, the Reds came into this ball game with more innings pitched out of the bullpen than anybody. They've edged out the Marlins by a couple of innings, the Mets by, say, 4 innings. That's coming into today's game. But the Reds bullpen still has a 4-1 record. They've saved 5 games. That's second in this league. So, you know, every time they seem to have been called on, they've done a nice job. The question is, do you have enough troops to stay fresh? And can you finally get into a rhythm when you're starting pitching where they don't have to cover 5 innings every game? Because right now, Reds starting pitching is giving the Reds 4.5 innings per start.
Yeah, in fact, today, if we just play 9 innings, obviously it would swing dramatically the other way if we have extra innings. So this ball is launched to center field, and look at Billy Hamilton. Adelman can't believe it. The fans in center can't believe it. I don't know if Billy can believe it. His sunglasses are still on the warning track. The only thing that matters is that ball somehow is in his glove. He got turned the wrong way, stayed with it. Unbelievable. To play by Billy Hamilton. So did the crowd on this Easter Sunday. Guy's just an extraordinary defender in center field.
Haven't we seen that celebratory arms in the air by Tim Adleman several times last year where Billy just saved him and he saved him again? Now, one of the reasons why this is such a dramatic catch is the fact that Billy Hamilton plays so shallow that he dares those hitters to hit the ball over his head, and when they do, he puts himself in a chance to make a highlight reel. And that is a great one right there. Saved the run, no doubt.
He's been a little beat up today. He's fouled the ball off of each shin, right?
Self-induced.
Yeah, and now, believe me, that's not like the dirt, you know, in your little local baseball field out there. It's got some rocks in it. It's not the softest stuff in the world. Side of his head went slamming down on the turf after making the grab. What a play. All right, let's see if that can perhaps spark the Reds offensively here in the bottom of the 6th inning. They trail by a run. Alcantara has walked and popped up to left field. I think the only strike he has seen from Peralta in this game he swung at. And that's still true. He walked him on 4 pitches in the 1st inning. He threw ball 1 in the 4th. The 2nd pitch, Alcantara popped up. And now he's gone 2-0. One away in the inning.
You know, Tom, I was talking about Tim Adleman holding his hands up, you know, a la celebratory with Billy Hamilton making those great plays. The guy that did that a lot last year was Dan Straley.
Yep.
And it seemed like every time, you know, there was a hard hit ball in the outfield, there was Hamilton to rein it in. Well, Straley pitched against the Marlins today. They're down in Miami. Marlins are winning 2-0 in the top of the 7th inning. But Straley pitched 5 1/3 innings of no-hit baseball today. Oh, however, he walked 5, and that's why he did not make it through the 6th inning. So right now that vision, though, of Straley holding his hands up is fresh in a lot of Reds fans' minds.
Straley pitched very well for this team last
did.
year. He sure did. Getting a second leaf on life in his career. Votto drill with a fastball high and tight, man.
On an 0-2 count. Very interesting.
Well, there's been a little bit of that going on already in this series. That normally's been reserved for the Reds and the Pirates. Well, that's not too far from up around the head area.
Yeah, that's way too high right there.
I mean, that's way upstairs. I don't know if Votto was yelling anything at Peralta. Peralta just twice looked over there at first base. Hard to tell. So now Adam Duvall with a tying run at first. Go ahead run at the plate last of the 6th inning. Now we saw Michael Lorenzen in the 2nd game of this series. Drilled Keon Broxton right in the rib cage with 1 out.
That was after he had 1 out in the inning, and then the inning got away from him.
Of course, now the Reds would say, well, let's back it up a second.
Exactly.
It was with 2 outs when Kiblahan was drilled the prior half inning on Thursday night.
You know, those are just kind of subtle things, but they're not overlooked in either dugout. Will not be long before these two teams meet again after today's game. Reds will hit the road after they host the Orioles and then the Cubs. The next road trip that comes around a week from today will take the Reds to St. Louis and then Milwaukee.
Milwaukee first.
Oh, Milwaukee first. So
1 week from today, we'll be getting on a plane after that finale against the Cubs and flying into downtown Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Miller Park play night games on a Monday, Tuesday, day game Wednesday. That will be the only game of that next road trip that will not be televised. The final game of that Brewers series. In fact, that's the only game not on TV for a long time. Two and two on Duvall. Full count. Votto virtually does not take a lead at all.
Well, he's not a stolen base threat, but by not taking a good secondary lead, you don't give yourself a chance to break up a double play, nor maybe score on a ball that rattles around in the corner somewhere.
Another foul ball by Duvall. Making Peralta work out there. Duvall hit that hot smash in the opening inning. That still is the play of the game for the Brewers on defense. Shaw diving to his left. Runners on the corners, only one out. Knocked the ball down and from his knees fired a strike to second. They completed the double play on Duvall. And the Reds did not score. 3-2 once more. A little bit more routine this time. Kennedy thought they'd do it, but all of a sudden the second baseman, there must be something going on out there at second base today, because Franklin couldn't find the handle.
That took a long play for that play to develop, and Duvall runs rather well. For an outfielder, he's at plus speed there. Good solid throw by Travis Shaw, just too long of a turn.
So now Suarez, he clubbed the 2-run home run to the second deck in left field in the 4th inning. He has a tying run at first base with 2 away here in the 6th. Strike 1 from Peralta. Cubs and the Pirates scoreless last of the 3rd at Wrigley. Marlins still 2-0 over the Mets in the 7th inning in Miami. The Nationals and the Phillies 3-1 Washington in the 5th. That ball is scalded, but right to the right fielder Perez to win the inning. We go to the 7th. It's a 1-run game. Before the start of every game here on Fox Sports Ohio. Reds Live, we call it, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. After an off day tomorrow, the Baltimore Orioles come to town. Adam Jones, Manny Machado, Chris Davis and company, although they're closing. Zach Britton just earlier today was placed on the 10-day disabled list. You know, we mentioned in Pittsburgh the other night, we saw the manager of Team USA from the World Baseball Classic, longtime Major League manager Jim Leyland. And we were asking him about some of the players that played for him. You know, he was telling some stories about this guy or that guy, and we got around to Adam Jones. And he said, man, he said, I don't know if I've ever been around a player in my life that when he puts on his uniform, it does not matter who the other team is, where they're playing, where they are in the standings, how many outs are in the game, what the score is in the game. He said, I've never seen a guy that is more about beating the other team than Adam Jones.
Wow.
And I'm not sure there's a greater compliment you can get from a manager with the experience and a guy who's been around some great players during his managerial career like Jim Leyland.
I mean, and ultimately that's what it's all about anyway. I mean, we get so sidelined by individual feats and numbers and, you know, leaderboards and so on, but bottom line is bottom line. How many wins your team puts on the board?
As Thames done it again, he's done it again. He has homered now in 4 consecutive games. And he makes it a 4-2 ball game, his 6th home run of this season.
I'll tell you what, if he plays enough games in his ballpark, he'll be the guy that hits the Toyota sign. I mean, he makes it look easy. Quick swing. He struck out the last time he faced Alaman on a changeup away, and this time he unjams another fastball.
He was on base 3 times, 2 hits, 2 batted in, a home run Thursday night. Friday night, 2 hits, 3 batted in, hit a 2-run home run. Yesterday on base 3 times, scored 3 runs, hit 2 home runs, knocked in 2. And here today, he's been on base 3 times, another home run, has scored twice.
He must love the food here in Cincinnati.
That is a first run allowed by Adelman, and now his 4th inning of work. Struck out Ryan Braun his first time up. Suarez to the glove side, 1 out. Adelman has been so solid here today, following Sal Romano, for those of you perhaps just joining us on this Easter Sunday, spending time with friends and family. Romano went 3 innings today. He walked 4 batters, allowed 3 hits, 3 runs, gave up back-to-back home runs in the 3rd inning, accounting for all 3 Brewers runs before that long one from Thames a moment ago. Shaw did not like that call. Seeing his dad earlier today, Jeff, he looks like he should be playing baseball still now. He is just in phenomenal physical condition.
And always has the Jeff Shaw smile.
Yep.
I mean, the most congenial guy ever. And you know, they say the closers have to have that edge, that tough guy edge. And he kind of got you out in a friendly fashion. Never had one overpowering pitch, didn't have a trick pitch. But he had great command of all his different pitching arsenal. Little slider, sinker, changeup. Good guy, really good guy, and a fine pitcher. In fact, he was heartbroken when he was traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers. You mentioned it the other day how he was traded right at the All-Star break and ended up playing as a Dodger in the All-Star game.
Yeah, he was being named as a Red.
Well, he actually signed a kind of a team-friendly contract with the Reds. And Jim Bowden was the general manager. And according to Jeff Shaw, he says, you know, this will make you a Red for the next 2 years. And as soon as he signed it, he was promptly traded. Over a matter of months, but it seemed like that anyway.
Well, you know, it's funny. I was doing the Dodgers-Giants game. That might have been a trade that was consummated on the 4th of July. I'd have to go back and look that up for sure. But I thought it was a 4th of July weekend. Anyway, Konerko, Paul Konerko, had just been called up to the Dodgers. And the game was at Candlestick Park. I was announcing that game on a Fox Saturday game years and years ago, back in the 1990s. And if you remember, at old Candlestick Park, both teams came into the field from the right field corner. You couldn't get from the clubhouse into the dugout on either side because it was a football and baseball stadium. So players, there's Jeff Shaw, and there's his son Griffin, wife Julie. It was the 4th of July. Thank you, Chris. 1998. And all of a sudden, Konerko, the visiting team, was over on the third base side, their dugout. And in the middle of the game, Konerko starts walking down the line, carrying his bats, his helmet. And I mean, remember now, it's a helmet, a Dodger helmet.
Right.
He's carrying everything all the way down the right field line in the middle of the game, and you're thinking, well, something's going on here. Because everybody in baseball was after Konerko. That was the day the Reds traded Jeff Shaw for Paul Konerko, who they promptly flipped over for Mike Cameron. Home run in the inning by Thames. We're going to keep it right here as we do every Sunday for the singing of God Bless America.
We ask that you please stand, kindly remove your hats and face the American flag. Major League Baseball, the Reds and the Brewers salute the men and women of our armed forces, as well as those who serve to protect in our local police and fire departments. At this time, please help us honor these brave men and women and all our veterans of service, and welcome Casey Campbell as he leads us in the singing of God Bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America.
All your Reds, they take on the defending world champion Chicago Cubs Friday, Saturday, Sunday next week right here. Presented by Sour Patch Kids. Catch all the action for as low as $12. Visit Reds.com for more details. Oh, we have a new pitcher coming on, replacing Willie Peralta, and this is going to be a bunt hit by Shevler. Now there is a savvy move right there. They put on the shift. This is something you bring up all the time, Chris. You're down by 2 runs. Shevler picked it up right away, and that wasn't even a great bunt. It didn't need to be.
You know what? You're right, Tom. Doesn't have to be a good bunt. Just has to be down on the left side. You see where the third baseman's playing, way back here. And there's no way he's going to be able to come in there on any slow roller to that side of the infield. They're giving you a base runner. All you got to do is be able to put it down and take it. Jacob Barnes is a new pitcher. He is in for the Brewers here after pitching a couple of days ago, pitched an inning. Seventh game overall for Barnes, often used.
Well, the Reds touched up the Milwaukee bullpen yesterday, scoring 4 times, 3 against Torres, once against Hughes. Bullpen the rest of the series done a pretty good job by and large for the Brewers. Of course, yesterday was the first time anybody out of their bullpen in this series pitched in what you'd call a tight spot. Not that a 5-1 lead is a huge lead, but by the time Jimmy Nelson had worked through 7 innings, Brewers were in complete control of this game. And then, of course, they had the big blowout here on Friday night. But a tight spot yesterday from all those guys, and the Reds got to them. Cozart fouls it away, trying to keep his hitting streak alive, which stands at 10 in a row. He's 0 for 2. Struck out swinging and fly to left, both against Peralta, who allows only 3 base hits in 6 innings. 2 runs earned. He walked 3, hit a batter, only struck out 1.
Barnes has got a pretty good arm. That last pitch at 97 miles an hour. '14th round draft pick by the Brewers, just kind of keep working his way through the minor leagues, made his major league debut and pitched quite a bit out of the bullpen for the Brewers last year.
Fly ball right center field. Braun will make the call and the catch, and staying at first is Shevler. Scooter Gennett going to come up into the on-deck circle. He would follow Tucker Barnhart. Tucker bounced out to Franklin, the second baseman, in the 3rd. He had a single into center field his last time up. Scooter open a chance to do some damage against his former team, as he did when given the opportunity yesterday. Tucker out of there on strikes, and here comes Jeanette's chance. Jeanette has only started one game in the series. That was yesterday. He did not play at all in the first game. In the second game, he came in the 7th inning as a pinch hitter, struck out, singled in the 9th inning. Got the start yesterday, was 0 for his first 2, but well, when it became money time late in the game, an RBI single in the 6th, a run scoring double down the right field line in the 7th. And perhaps to some, it was quite surprising he was not in the lineup today. This guy is swinging the bat as well as anybody on your entire team from a production standpoint. I mean, there are other guys with a higher batting average, or other guys that maybe are getting on base more. But 3 home runs and 10 runs batted in and 25 at bats.
You know, the other thing you consider, Tom, and Dusty Baker used to do this a lot, is to try to figure out the best matchups, not necessarily physically or how the tools match up, but maybe an emotional matchup. And the fact that Scooter would be playing against his other former team, they didn't trade him, they released him. And probably a surprise to Scooter Gennett, so maybe a little extra motivation to show them he was more valuable than they thought.
Ball is driven hard into left field and up against the wall. It is Ryan Braun. That ball hit hard. 1 hit, 1 left. End of 7, 4-2 Brewers. Our Honda game summary. First batter of the game, first batter in Sal Romano's career. He struck out Nick Franklin. In the 3rd, after an error put Thames aboard, Ryan Braun homered. Right behind him, Shaw homered. And a 3-0 lead. That was all for Romano after 3 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned. Reds got within 1. After a 2-run upper deck shot by Eugenio Suarez in the 4th inning. And then Thames baited a home run in each of the 4 games of this series.
I mean, he's got to be player of the week, right? The way he has hit the ball this week, Thames. Really unbelievable.
He's only the 6th player ever to hit 5 home runs in a single series against the Reds. 5 of them.
That's Blake Wood taking over for the Reds. What a great job by Adam. And he went 4 innings of 2-hit, 1-run baseball. The only run was the home run he gave up to Thames. Struck out 5, did not walk a batter. Made it look easy.
Sure did an excellent job. Now here's the one guy the Reds have really not gotten going yet out of their bullpen, and that's Wood. I mean, you just look at this series alone. He was hung with a loss here on Friday night. He allowed 3 runs in just 2/3 of an inning and 3 hits. Had some bad luck the other night in Pittsburgh. They had to take him out after 1/3 of an inning, allowed a couple of hits, couple of bloopers, but hits nonetheless. So we'll see if Wood can get it going in the right direction here today.
Well, he's only been scored on in 2 games overall, but sometimes that can be misleading if the runners that you inherit end up scoring. He was scored on in the first game of the year when he gave up a couple of hits and a run, and then, as you mentioned just the other day against Milwaukee, gave up 3 2/3. Good news is the Reds are 4-2 in games in which he pitches. So usually bullpen pitchers, and that may be different for the Reds this year, but normally bullpen pitchers fall into 1 or 2 categories. Guys that pitch in games you're winning, and guys that pitch in games you're losing.
One away in the inning. The Memorial Tournament is the official kickoff to summer. You can order your badges for the Memorial, presented by Nationwide, coming up to beautiful Muirfield Village Golf Club May the 29th through June the 4th outside Columbus. Go to memorialbadges.com. You ever been to the Memorial Tournament?
No, I have not been to the tournament. I've been up to Muirfield a few times, but never for the tournament. What a beautiful place. And like you, Tom, we're always working that weekend.
That's right. In fact, this year we will be where? When is be in Philadelphia that weekend. Where else would you be Memorial Weekend than Philadelphia? Where would you rather be? Maybe Columbus. 1-1 on Nieuwenhuis. Reds have a top of the order in the bottom of the 8th inning. Barnes threw the ball well in that 7th inning. And I don't see any action right now anyway. In the Milwaukee bullpen. Doesn't mean there wasn't somebody up a little bit earlier. Oh, Niebel up there. Didn't see him. And apparently just received word he has been throwing for a little while. So we might see him in the 8th. Maybe. Pretty nasty stuff right there from Wood.
Well, especially when you can locate it down and in the way he did. He just missed with the previous pitch, a fastball that he thought had come back and got the corner. So he throws it to the same spot. Nieuwenhuis thinks, well, that's got to be a strike, right? And then it drops the other way on him. That and the fact that Wood, you got a really good look at his delivery right there, how he really hides the ball. I mean, there's a lot of things coming at you when you're a hitter. His glove, his front arm, he kind of tilts his shoulder. He doesn't get hit hard. Normally what happens when Wood starts giving it up is that, you know, his control will begin to go away on him.
This is the kind of batter that Wood should just wear out. As good as he is getting it down and away and really down and away.
From the batter's viewpoint,
Brought up earlier, Arcia really stepping in the box. That should take care of him. All right, 1-2. Once more, the 1-2 pitch, and that'll take care of Arcia. Barnhart will throw down the first, and that's the inning. Good work by Wood. Reds bat bottom of the 8th, now 2.
Around baseball this weekend, it was the 70th anniversary of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier, and yesterday at Dodger Stadium. Check that out. That is a beautiful statue. Statue unveiled at Dodger Stadium. Jackie Robinson, of course, with the Brooklyn Dodgers, National Baseball Hall of Famer and Society Transcender. That is good stuff right there. And we salute the memory and legacy. Number 42, Jackie Robinson, on this weekend.
You know what's cool about that entrance and where that's located? For those that have been to Dodger Stadium, you know, you probably know this, but those that have not, Dodger Stadium, you know, also called Chavez Ravine, is built down into the ground. Acres and acres and acres of parking lot surround Dodger Stadium, just a little bit off of downtown LA. But that entrance level, when you get on an elevator for the ballpark to go up and down, it is the 7th level of the ballpark. But from the parking lot, it is the primary ground level entrance to the stadium. It'd be like our entrance here at Great American Ballpark when you come in back behind home plate. And then straight down into the ground in one of the great settings in all of professional sports. All right, taking over on the mound, Corey Knebel. Knebel, boy, I beg your pardon. And he has fallen behind Billy Hamilton, 3-0.
Yeah, this is a big inning right here because you're down by a couple. Billy didn't like it. That was a good old-fashioned 3-0 Leo.
Adrian Johnson behind the plate, now 3-0 instead of ball 4 to Hamilton. And now strike 2.
But I say it's an important inning because you got the top of the order here in the 8th inning. So your best chance of getting guys on and getting them going normally at the top.
I think Hamilton's still upset. He should be upset. I mean, that is a terrible call on that 3-0 pitch. That was ball 4 all the way. You give him a strike, and then to Knebel's credit, he comes back and blows Hamilton away on a 3-2 fastball. There was ball 4 as well.
You know, Tom, it's interesting. I read a very insightful article a couple of years ago about studying umpires and calls that are near the plate and the human nature of an umpire. It's been proven out. They don't necessarily want to make calls that change the at-bat. So, for instance, if you ring a guy up on a 2-strike count and he's caught looking for strike 3, that's something that is hard for umpires to do from a human standpoint. And the same way is on a marginal pitch for ball 4. Because he says, I don't want to take control of the game right here. I'm going to call this a strike, a 3-1 count, and now the game continues and we'll see what happens. Certainly not conscious or intentional by umpires, but it's something that, you know, psychologists have weighed in on, and they've got studies to prove that that's really kind of human nature.
Reds are down 2, and they're down to their final 5 outs of the game. Here's Alcantara. And I think he thought that pitch was high. It was the high strike on the 3-0 pitch to Hamilton, which was called a strike. So now 1-2 on Alcantara, who's 0 for 2, has drawn a walk, and he's gone swinging as well. We'll get your weekend on the golf course right here on the Golf Zone with Jimmy Hanlon, presented by Farm & Guard. Golf Zone tees off tonight, right after Game 3 of the Blue Jackets and the Penguins, right here on Fox Sports Ohio, streaming on Fox Sports Go. Joey Votto, the batter. It's interesting. Knebel has been very, very tough for left-handed batters to deal with. You've seen in this inning back-to-back strikeouts. Lefties are hitting in his career .201 against this Milwaukee right-hander. Fouled straight back ahead of Votto, 0-2.
You know, he throws hard. I mean, we're looking at the radar gun readings, and they're 97 and 98, but there must be something more to it. He kind of jumps at you a little bit. He gets a nice long stride. He has definitely gotten better over the years.
One and 2 on Votto. 2 outs, nobody on. Votto hit with the pitches last time up. Peralta came high and tight. Got him.
That's the kind of pitch,
shoulder area.
The one you just saw there that where Votto had a dance out of the way, that's the one where most pitching coaches will coach a pitcher. When you get ahead 0-2, 1-2, make the hitter move his feet. But you don't want to pitch upstairs around the head or the shoulder.
This is going to be a base hit on an excuse me swing. How about that? So the tying run will come to the plate. Joey and the Reds get a break.
All right, you know, that lends you to obviously ask the obvious question. If the Brewers are way around like this, and the Reds are down by 2 in the 8th inning, and even a Joey Votto home run of 450 feet doesn't even tie the game up, why wouldn't Votto just take this in the very first place?
I don't think they have a metric yet to quantify the stubbornness of hitters.
Well, now it's Duvall. Of course, that was a question that was asked seemingly every time you played the San Francisco Giants back during the Barry Bonds area in such situations. Not in a tie game, not when they're down a run, obviously. But when you're down 2 or 3 in the 8th inning and you're leading off the inning. And I mean, teams had a huge, much bigger than Votto, huge shift they put on Bonds. And why wouldn't he bunt? Ken Griffey Jr. We used to ask the same thing when the Reds would be down multiple runs late in a game. Straight up into the air. Foul ground. That'll get out of play. Duvall in this game is 0 for 2. In fact, Adam is hitless in this entire series.
Well, they've got acronyms for so many different types of formulas out there. WAR, RISP, BABIP. I don't know what that one would be called. Maybe EGO.
Not only is Duvall hitless in the series, Adam has not hit the ball out of the infield in this series. He's hit the ball hard a couple of times in the infield, including once today. But not one time has he swung the bat. He started Friday, started Thursday and Friday, started again today. That one got a piece of the catcher, Pena. Looked like got him right in the face mask. Saw him thank the home plate umpire for giving him an extra minute or two. We were talking about with Tommy Joseph, now the young first baseman of the Philadelphia Phillies, who was a catcher during his minor league days, highly touted one at that. But after multiple concussions, they moved him out from behind the plate. 1-2 pitch. And Duvall technically still hasn't hit it out of the infield. That's all for the Reds in the 8th. 1 hit. They're down by 2. On Fox Sports Ohio, make sure you stick around for Reds Live, brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. We'll give you a complete recap, interviews from the locker room, everything going on. That play in the first inning still looms so large. A double play with runners on the corners, a hot smash by Duvall. And on the other side, how about Billy Hamilton's play in center field behind Tim Adams? Doesn't get any better than that. Jonathan VR will come up and bat, getting a rare off day. They better hurry. And Blake Wood, nice play, takes care of VR on 1 pitch. Back to the top of the order in Nick Franklin, and you have one more encounter with Eric Thames, who has 5 home runs in this 4-game series. Apparently that's all for Wood. Reds are going to make a pitching change after Blake Wood retires all 4 batters he faces. So a nice job by Blake Wood. This will be our Skyline Chili. Call to the bullpen. Wandy coming in. Far, far away with a new Star Wars themed ticket package as low as $30. You get a Reds ticket and an unlimited edition Star Wars Stormtrooper. Limited quantities are available. Purchase a Star Wars themed ticket package today at reds.com/Star Wars. Wandy Peralta comes on from the Reds bullpen, and he will face a pinch hitter. Aguilar will bat for Franklin, which tells you that the pinch hitter a moment ago, VR, will just stay in the game to play defense at second base. Big swing and a miss. You know, that Star Wars thing, they had some big, huge convention we heard about. I mean, they came from all over the globe to Orlando, Florida the last number of days. And one of the beat writers who follows the Reds does such a great job, C. Trent Rosecrans. There's a broken bat. And Alcantara will field and throw out Aguilar. Apparently he was down there. And I asked him if he had dressed up as either Chewbacca or Princess Leia.
How did he react to that question?
He said, "I'm not at liberty to say." There he is, C. Trent. Now, what do you think? Chewbacca or dressed up as Princess Leia? What do you think?
Boy. You know what I love about you is your sophomoric sense of humor.
There's no doubt about it. The more sophomoric, the better.
Now, this is the real reason that Brian Price made the change here with Peralta. They faced each other the other day, and Peralta threw a couple of off-speed pitches that had Thames look really bad, and then tried to sneak a fastball by him. And like most of the time this series, Thames was there with the sweet part of the bat. He's ahead 1 ball with 2 strikes. And misses with a slider.
What an incredible series this fella's had. First time he's played here in Cincinnati. 5 home runs in a series, one of 6 players to ever do that against the Reds, and a great job by Wandy. Look at Wandy walking off the back of the mound, fired up. All right, Suarez, Schebler, Cozart. Reds need more than that. Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices at Kroger. By Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Look at that beautiful picture right there. From the Commonwealth looking into the downtown Cincinnati along the Ohio River. All right. Bottom of the 9th inning. Reds are down by 2. Neftali Feliz, the new closer.
Now, normally you see here at the end of bullpens nowadays is the guy in the 8th inning throwing hard and then the guy in the 9th inning throwing super hard. And that's what they have here with the Brewers. Neftali Feliz has thrown 3 pitches this year in excess of 100 miles an hour. That will follow up Knebel, who was routinely dialing it in 97, 98.
Eugenio Suarez to lead things off. He'll be followed by Scott Schebler and Zach Cozart. Get any further than that, you get to Tucker Barnhart. And then the pitcher spot. Fly ball, right field. This will be the first out in the Reds' 9th.
Feliz last year was with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Before that, he spent nearly his entire career, and it started when he was 21 years of age in 2009 with Texas. He is now 29. Did not have a great year last year compared to what he can do. And he's had some arm issues.
Well, he was a guy you may remember, and there were so many similarities on their career paths outside of the fact that Aroldis Chapman defected from Cuba. Once he got to professional baseball, Feliz was a guy who was a closer, but he wanted to be a starter. The Rangers had made the decision they're going to make him a starter. And then he got hurt. So, you know, it never came to fruition and that kind of thing. Chapman, of course, was a reliever when they brought him to the major leagues, trying to win the division in 2010. Had him fool around as a starter in 2011, again in 2012, ultimately deciding that wasn't the deal. He would become a reliever. And so Aroldis Chapman never started a major league game during the regular season. Saw him start in spring training. One and two the count on Schebler. Maybe came back to eat. Thankfully, that ball hit an empty seat here today. Very, very, very small crowd on this Easter Sunday. In fact, I would bet this will probably be the lowest attended Sunday game by 10,000. That we will play this entire summer at Great American Ballpark, and that is exclusively because it is Easter Sunday. On swinging Schebler, and the Reds are down to their final out. Brewers only 5 hits in this game today, but they hit 3 home runs. Don't know if the Mets hit a home run in the game they're playing right now, 2-2 in the bottom of the 9th against the Marlins. If they did not, these Brewers would be tied with the New York Mets for the major league lead with 22 home runs. For Cozart, his last chance perhaps to extend the hitting streak to 11 in a row. And we understand the Mets, even in a tie game, have not homered tonight, today. So the Brew Crew will head back home as the leaders, perhaps, in all of baseball. Actually, they're going to Wrigley Field, I beg your pardon. And they'll play each of the next 3 days there. Night game, day game. Reds are scheduled to see Jake Arrieta, John Lester, and John Lackey in the 3-game series here next weekend. Two and one. Count even up. Reds are down to their final strike and their final out. Well, you left Pittsburgh. I don't think anybody saw this coming. Not to suggest that the Reds are a team that's going to, win 98, 100 games this year, but certainly didn't think that they would drop 3 out of 4 over the weekend to the Brewers.
Well, I think what it shows is the frailty of a young starting rotation. They can look awfully good at times, like world beaters, and you get to the point where you're all of a sudden you're expecting it, and you probably are there with Amir Garrett. You're expecting Amir Garrett to go out every time and give you 7 innings of 1-run baseball. But he's going to hit some road bumps too. So it's tough though when you've got a rotation full of them and they hit road bumps in the same stretch.
Well, this one not over yet.
Good at bat here by Cozart. I mean, he's hanging right in there on the fastball, fouling him back. At least tried to trick him with a slider there, and he wasn't biting.
Trying to keep hopes alive is Cozart. 3-2 count with 2 outs, last of the 9th inning. We'll do it again.
Well, aside from batting .444, Cozart is right now the toughest out in this Reds lineup.
Once more, 3 balls, 2 strikes, and that's all she wrote. Strike 3, Cozart disagrees, but that's a call by Adrian Johnson. The Reds not too happy with a number of his calls over the course of the game, especially late in the game. Final count, though, of 4-2. Reds held to 5 base hits, committed a couple of errors, and left 5 on base. Let's go downstairs to Jim Day.
Tom, thank you very much. Always interested to hear the comments after a pitcher makes his major league debut. We'll hear from Sal Romano coming up. He's got this one behind him, and the Reds hope to put this series behind them as well. We'll catch up with manager Brian Price, and if you're just getting home on this Easter Sunday, we'll show you how this one unfolded. Brew Crew and the Reds. It's Reds Live, the postgame edition, and it's on deck.